Welcome to Beauty and the Gi, the BJJ podcast about jiu-jitsu and life on and off the mat. I'm Jen Eads, a white belt full of curiosity and questions about all things jiu-jitsu.
And I'm AJ Clingerman, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt, and I run the Role Model Women's Only Grappling Camp. In this episode, we're going to dive into a few of the questions that were asked at the end of camp this year. And we just got to sit down with Emily Kwok and Rachel Casias and pick their brains and find out how they felt about some stuff. As you know, or may know, we did an episode on tapping a while back. And I gave my answer, which was not an answer at all because I still wasn't sure how I felt about it. So it was really good for me to get to ask Rachel what her opinion was on whether you should tap the week before a tournament, tap frequently or fight to get out of something. So it was good to get her perspective.
And let's dive right into the questions.
Okay, AJ Clingerman here. We have an episode coming up about tapping in general, but my question is, the week before you compete, are you more likely to tap quickly because you don't want to get injured, or more likely to fight hard to not give up that tap and get that mindset?
I tap quickly so I don't get injured.
Okay.
I have the mindset, I don't need someone to tell me to fight hard in a jiu-jitsu tournament. So the 4 days before, I'm trying not to get hurt. I don't want to work 12 weeks to the pans of the worlds to have a white, some dude try to crank on my neck and then I can't fight. That's where you learn to manage your ego, like Emily was talking about. All right, dude, get the hell off. Great, you cranked on my neck. I don't care. I want to be able to fight at light feather, master 1, 2, 3, or whatever I am these days, at the pans of the worlds. I only do really the pans of the worlds anymore for time-wise, but I would rather be healthy than deal with my ego for that.
One of the things that I think is great about being able to incorporate Rachel into this podcast is you never have to worry that she's not going to have an opinion.
That's true. That's true. I am really glad that I asked that question, though, about tapping, because it did give me some guidance that I really needed.
Yeah.
And the way she put everything, I was like, okay, that I can get behind that. I feel great.
Well, let's go right into the next question then that came up. And this one was about fear and competition.
All right, ladies, we have a couple of questions. I'm going to read it, I guess, and then answer it. I've never competed as a white belt. I'm a blue belt now, and I'm still afraid to compete. I tell myself not everybody competes. Competition is not for everyone. And am I lying to myself? Should I force myself to compete? How can I deal with the fear? You should never force yourself to do anything you don't want to do, right? If you don't want to compete, don't compete. If you're asking me, should you compete? Absolutely. I always tell everyone to compete because you learn more about yourself when you're competing versus when you're in the gym. I don't think anyone's lying to themselves. If you have an innate fear that you don't want to compete, that's perfectly fine. It's okay not to compete. Completely 100% okay. If you have a fear of competing, that's 100% healthy. If someone tells you that they're not afraid to compete, they're lying. I just 100% think they're lying. They handle their fear better than most people then, or they have a way to deal with their fear. Some people listen to music. Some people have to jump up and down. Christina Ballone dances like a crazy person. That's fine. She'll tell you she's terrified every time before every match, but she dances. That's the way she gets rid of it. I put headphones in that aren't plugged into anything. I don't listen to music. I just tuck them in my thing so no one will talk to me. That's really it. I don't want to talk to anybody. Some people have to stretch a lot. One of our brown belts has to swing his hips 800 times. I'm like, you look super creepy, dude. But that's what he does to calm his nerves down. You just have to find what'll help you deal with that fear and that adrenaline dump. But fear is completely normal. Fear is a good thing. It'll help you fight, and find out what'll help you get over the fear. And that's very personal to each person. For me, it's just, I really enjoy jiu-jitsu, and it probably wasn't until last year at the Pan Ams where I stood down there at Black Belt Sunday. I looked around and I was like, it was before the finals, and I was like, this is cool. It's the first time I really didn't feel like I don't want to be here. This is awful. I don't want to lose. Last year for the finals, I was like, I deserve to be here. This is an awesome situation. I should enjoy this. Because if you ever compete, when you get the black belt and they announce not just your name, but which team you compete for, right? So you walk out there and they're like, so-and-so representing such and such, right? It's creepy as man. Because you're standing there and you don't want anybody to watch you. You want people to watch you, but you really don't want people to watch you. And you're trying to convince yourself that only the 7 people that came from your team are the ones watching you. But then you look up and you're on the Jumbotron, like the Pan Ams, and you're like, it's bad, real bad. So the first time, I wasn't prepared my first year at Black Belt. And they're like, Rachel Noelle Morrison. They don't use my married name. They go, Rachel Noelle Morrison, how they say it, and they're like, representing Team Zenith. And I'm like, why is everybody paying attention to me now? What if I just get my ass beat really quick? Luckily that didn't happen. I was excited. But you have to get over that fear, and whatever helps you get over that fear. Whether it's whatever you're focusing on, dancing, jumping, zenning out, whatever it is. Some people like to smile. I'm not a smiler. Like, if you've ever been to any of Sophia McDermott Drysdale, I think she's dropped the Drysdale now, camps, where she does a lovely lifestyle camp. She's like, I'm always smiling. You should be scared of the ones that are smiling. Well, I'm not a smiler. I tried to do it, and I just looked ridiculous. It's like, so I just stand there in my own little bubble with my hoodie up, like, I got to weigh in so I can drink this Pepsi. Someone's better let me weigh in. When am I going to get on the orange so I can weigh in to drink this Pepsi? That's all I'm thinking about. And what works for me, I used to have to get angry to fight. I don't have to do that anymore. Now I just think, like, I'm here, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to waste this 5 or 6, 7 minutes. Like, you're going to have to earn it, like, that's the way I look at it. And that's what's helped me with my fear part of it.
And then you had mentioned the adrenaline dump kind of situation. So how far before you plan on fighting do you go into that situation? Just because sometimes I find that I'll either have done it way too early, or then all of a sudden my mind's out of it by the time I get to the mat. So
that's really hard to regulate, especially, although IBJF does a better job of it than a lot of things, because you can see on the little board now, like, how many fights you have till your turn to go, unless they move you because people aren't showing up, which is really annoying, by the way. But for me, I don't try to get too up until there's only like 5 or so fights before me. Like, I'm zoned, I'm there, I'm fine. Some people have to be doing it all day. For me personally, when I hit, like, I'm like right below the orange, right before I can check in to start drinking my caffeine, is when I start thinking, all right, we got to do this, right? I'm not one of those people that requires a whole bunch of warm up. I tried that once, like, tried to get super sweaty and going, and it just didn't work for me. I'm one of those people that are like, all right, I'm going to stretch, like, touch my toes, do this with my arms, let's do this, right? But it's personal for each. For me, if I get too up too soon, the adrenaline dump is too much, right? I find, though, that once I get a grip on the gi, I'm good. So I tell myself, my mantra for a couple years at the Pan Ams was, I will fight hard, I will win, I will be Pan Am champion, right? So it's not easy. It's hard to do it at purple belt. It's hard to do it at brown belt. It's hard to do it at black belt. It's hard to keep doing it more than once. Every time you do it one more time, the expectation raises. So I've just told myself I'm not going to get too up until there's only about 20 minutes before I fight. Some people get up in the morning. Like, they wake up like, I'm doing this. You got to it just comes with more competing. You'll figure out how much time you need for that. The more you can control the adrenaline dump, the easier it is to fight, right? If you haven't had an adrenaline dump, you haven't fought very much, because they're there for all of them, right? They don't go away. You get better at managing the adrenaline dump.
So for me, definitely what I found, because, she does mention you have to, figure out what works for you. What works best for me to avoid the adrenaline dump is getting a good sweat in. So I like to, if I can, roll around a little bit. If I feel like I had my first match in the back room or whatever, then I'm not as nervous for my actual first match. If I don't do that, if I don't get a good sweat in, I feel like my thighs lock up. And so for me, that's what really helped with the adrenaline dump portion of that. So
I think for me, I haven't competed enough to know what I need to do.
Right.
Because I know when I hit the mat during competition last time, I just was like,
we're here.
You can't see me, but I'm all over the place. Just like I was.
That's good. I like also that she was like, everybody has a fear of competing.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. Everyone has a fear of it. And not to force yourself to do something. But, and I agree with that. Also, I think we should do things that we're afraid of. Like that's how we grow.
Truly.
So, yeah. So what is our tip for on the mat this week?
Our tip for on the mat is tap early and tap often, especially leading into competition.
I like that. I like that a lot. And then off the mat, I think planning out what you're taking to the competition, like having your competition bag packed and ready to go, making sure you have your headphones and your mouthpiece and that your phone's charged and, you have any essential oils you need or whatever, snacks. Exactly, snacks, yeah. But making sure you have all of that, because if you're already kind of nervous and on the borderline of that anxiety attack, those little things can be something that push you over the edge. So just being prepared off the mat before competition day really helps.
The other thing that I'm going to recommend that you tap this week is the share button on your podcast app so that you can send this episode to a friend that needs to hear it.
I like that. I think you should send it to 3 friends. Let's pick 3 friends that you think should hear it.
I think that's a fantastic goal. Or you can just post on Instagram that you're listening to it and tag those 3 friends in the post that they need to hear it. And then you can also tag me at Brassy Broad Jen.
And me at AJ Clingerman.
And then you can tag the podcast at Beauty and the Ghee Podcast.
Very nice.
And we will see you
on the mat.